All right. I am going to, if I did, please put it in the chat, and I'm going to cruise on quickly. So the goals of a literature review, just as a level set us, key concepts of your topic you want to be able to discuss. You want to find this and be able to state the snapshot of the state of knowledge on your topic. And then you're looking for gaps, areas of debate, areas for potential contribution, future research. So that's what you're searching for when you're doing this literature review. My goal is to help you avoid some of the overwhelm that I see in this picture, which people think of when they're thinking about literature review. So my learning objectives before I heard from all of you were that I show you some AI tools to assist with question creation, outlining, searching for relevant literature, and then identify key concepts of your topic and use those to search for relevant literature in PubMed, maybe also in Google Scholar, and then understand the benefits of using a citation manager when collecting, organizing, and using literature. I will do my best to get to everything you said. Some things I may need to follow up with. So I'm hoping that if I don't get to your needs, I can follow up with some handouts that will help you. Like I have great handouts on how to save searches in PubMed. We don't have time to go over that, but you can do that and it'll email you weekly or monthly if you have a great search with any up-to-date articles. So there's a lot of good things that we may not have time to get to, but I'm a kind of a person that follows up. So what I want to do is quickly talk about demo the AI tools and then have you work on them. Then quickly talk about demo literature search strategies in PubMed and then have you try them. And then talk about citation managers. I'd love to hear from people that use them because they're the best advocates for them, but I have recommendations also and ways to get started, and then have some QA and wrap up. But like I said, I'm going to go fast, but please feel free to unmute, ask questions. So AI tools, they're great for doing some background work, identifying and refining a question, outlining a topic, looking for articles, database search strategy help. As you know, they're not perfect, but they do speed up a lot of things, and they make a lot of topical connections quickly that take us longer to do. And there's tons of them, as you know. So I did some research looking at a colleague in medical librarianship who focuses on AI tools for this kind of work. And so I'm using his recommendations in this talk, but there are many other tools. And it's as you know, a field that's changing all the time. More tools are coming out all the time. But also, as you know, there's downsides to using AI that you have to keep in mind, the potential bias, the need for critical evaluation of the output. And it's not a replacement for the in-depth reading. It just can help you get started and maybe get you unstuck. So that's why I'm recommending. It's just a place to start to help synthesize or help you get started with the synthesis. Let's see. So the tools, since I knew I was speaking to audience from all around the world, I wanted to use open tools today. Your institution may have closed tools that they recommend. Like we have at IU, Google Gemini, that's closed, that doesn't go, all our prompts don't go out for training. We also have a form of the Microsoft product for that. But I'm going to use the Open Gemini today just for demonstration and so you can try it. And then there's also the AI2 Paper Finder and then the AI2 Scholar Q&A. The Scholar Q&A is in beta form, so it isn't as handy as the Paper Finder. They both look only at open access articles, which is helpful, but that's also why we want to look at PubMed, because PubMed has a lot of non-open access articles that you don't want to miss. But this can help you get started for a number of things. So let me do a live demo really quickly on how I would use Google Gemini. I took just a general topic for this, which is cardiovascular remodeling under normal and pathologic conditions. I said provide 10 postgraduate research questions. So in the prompt, you just tell it what level you want, how many questions you want, and you give it as much information as you can. But quite quickly, if I'm stuck on narrowing down my question, that's a great way to go. And then I can take it and ask it to make it more specific. Again, it will explain what it's doing, give you options on specificity, which can be helpful. And then once I choose a specific question, I just quickly ask it to outline a literature review. This isn't necessarily the literature review that I would use, but it helps me think, okay, I need to look for literature to introduce this topic, and then I need to look for literature maybe on specific subtopics, and what am I going to ask about those subtopics, which will help me organize my literature review. Then I might, copy and paste this into a Word document, change what needs to be changed, but then I can sort of drop what I'm finding underneath these topics just to help me get started, to make me feel like, okay, I've got some information here, I'm missing information here, then I want to structure my literature search accordingly. So it can be quite helpful to get you narrowed down to the type of information and how specific you want to be. And then lastly, it's not perfect, but it can help you get started on creating a PubMed search. So I said, create a PubMed search for the following questions. What are the long-term cardiovascular consequences of diabetes on postpartum cardiac and vascular structure and function? And can early lifestyle interventions mitigate these effects? It's, again, like I said, not perfect, but it helps break it down into categories for you. It gives you a search you can try. Personally, I think it gives you things you shouldn't do. You shouldn't use not. Not can eliminate all sorts of, sorry about that. It can eliminate all sorts of relevant articles, so don't use the not part. It also is telling you to combine 4 different topics. That might be too many. I usually start with 2 or 3 when I'm searching, so I don't eliminate articles too soon. If I've got too many articles, then um, I can narrow down in multiple ways, and I can add another topic, but I don't want to start by putting in 4 to begin with, and I certainly don't ever want to use not. So like I said, there's pros and cons for that. Then I want to show you quickly what happened when I put in papers that answer the following question: what are the long-term cardiovascular consequences of diabetes on postpartum cardiac and vascular structure? This is a very transparent paper finder, again, using only open access. It tells you exactly what it's doing, how it's deciding articles are relevant, how it is ranking them, and then it gives you 49 papers. It tells you you can limit it to just the ones that rated as relevant. There are 37 that are somewhat relevant. You can see where they were published. That's venue. You can, limit by year, limit by criteria that you've sort of already given it. And it gives you, like, you start out with this list of papers, but you can see, okay, show me the evidence. And this is the evidence it's pulling to decide that it's relevant. You can look at the abstract, and you can look at the relevant passages from the paper. This is not in beta, so you can export all the citations. And if you log in, you can save your searches here. So it is using Semantic Scholar, and it is very open, and it's run by a nonprofit. And it takes a little bit of time when you run a search, so that's why I have the search already for you to demo it. But every time you run a search, it will ask you if you want to allow it to use your prompt for training data, and I always say no for privacy reasons. The second tool for AI2 is this AI2 Scholar Q&A. And so again, just asked the question that I asked here in Paper Finder, and I got this whole basically a lit review that I wouldn't use myself, but again, it gives you sections that you might want to focus on. It cites articles that you can then look at. And then at the bottom, you've got the whole list of references. It is in beta, so you can't easily export these references. You can go to individual references and look at them, and you can share, and I believe this will create it will add it to a clipboard that then you could use later. So this isn't as extensively designed as the AI2 paper finder where you can export everything, but it's not a bad way just to look at the different things you might want to look at, and see what's out there and see how it's organized that can help you do the same. So these are the 3 tools that I would like you to try. I'm going to put these in the chat. And depending on what you need, let me just go back to my PowerPoint to tell you. In the next 5 minutes, I'd like for you to decide what you need to do and just try any of these. Working on a research question, outline, look for papers, or create a PubMed search and try it out or refine it. I'm going to bring up a timer and set it and ask you to try these things. And then I want to find out from a few of you what worked well, what didn't work well, or if you have any questions. So this is the interactive part, and this is why I'm speaking so quickly, but feel free to ask questions. Okay, would one or two of you be able to tell me how that went for you? Did anything work well or not work well?
So my 2 cents is I really didn't like Google Gemini.
All right.
But when I went to AI2 Paper Finder, I put in, search terms and it came up with, I really like that it came up with a brief analysis of each paper so that I could then like figure out, do I want to click on this paper? Do I want to look further? And I definitely found a paper I now want to read because of the search tool. So I think that
Oh,
was a
great.
successful thing.
Excellent. Excellent. Someone else.
My experience was with Google Gemini and creating a PubMed search, and I think I was much too specific initially. And I ended up with like 5 different topics, which probably wouldn't give me very many papers. So I kind of had to backtrack and step back and think about my research question and start over a little.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Yeah. Hopefully, in the next part, we will maybe help you with that when we focus more on PubMed. One other person?
I can talk about, I looked at the AI2 paper finder and I didn't dig too deep into the papers yet, but it generated a lot of results. And just in scanning through, I did find 3 or 4 of what I have considered kind of my like core papers that I have been basing a lot of my work on. So that's a good litmus test for me that at the very least it's finding papers that I have already deemed relevant. So I
Great.
would be very curious to see what else they are seeing that I'm missing.
And then you could take those papers into PubMed also to see what search terms, and we'll talk about that in a second, but what search terms they use or what subject headings they use, which will help you bring up papers that they may not have found because they're not open access papers. So yeah, great. Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on in the interest of time. I appreciate the participation. So now we're switching to when you're searching an article database. You have to identify the concepts of your research question, and then you find the keywords and the subject headings that help define or describe those concepts. That's kind of why I liked starting with Google Gemini, because it sort of breaks down the different concepts, sometimes too much, of a question. So you have to be careful, but it sort of shows you how to do that. So you identify the concepts in the question, like concept 1, diabetes, concept 2, postpartum period, and concept 3, cardiovascular consequences. And then you identify keywords and subject headings describing each concept. So for diabetes, Google Gemini yesterday did this for me. It found mesh terms. It found some things that were not mesh terms. But it also found keywords that it said it would search in the title and abstract. So this is searching for all the articles that have this as a mesh heading, or diabetes in the title or abstract, diabetic in the title or abstract, or gestational diabetes. So this is a start. Okay, this is one concept that I need to find all words. This may not be all the words, and I may need to make modifications, but it's a start. And then you create search strings, which is what Google Gemini did. So you've got this diabetes and the search string, and then the postpartum period and the search string created, and then concept 3, cardiovascular consequences, and what they came up with. And this is how I approach all my searches. Google Gemini did it a lot quicker. It usually takes me longer when I'm not using AI, but it takes definite human intervention. I wouldn't stop here, especially if I was doing a systematic review. For something quick and dirty, it's not bad. It's not a bad way to start. And then you combine the search strings with and. So one concept, all these terms are combined with or, the Boolean or, to make a set, and then each concept is combined with and. So we find the intersection. So every article that is brought up will have one of these words, one of these words, and one of these words. So we're finding that intersection. And then lastly, applying relevant limits like year or article type, because I often teach evidence-based medicine. I'm trying to suggest medical students go to the highest level of evidence they can when they're looking to find answers to clinical questions. So I often start there for narrowing down. So, and I will demonstrate that. So now I want to do a live demo in PubMed. And I'm going to take a search strategy that Google Gemini gave me yesterday when I was working on this, and show you what I do when I copy and paste it in. I got 730 results, which isn't a lot for me. This was looking at those 3
All right,
topics.
just real quick, where
Yeah.
did you paste that into? That went really fast.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm glad you stopped. So you can paste it anywhere. The front page I copied from my Word document from yesterday, but I could go to Google Gemini.
So it
and
doesn't have to be in the big text box. It can just be in a little strip.
It can be in the little one. Yeah. Yeah. You can copy it anywhere. Yep. And you don't really see everything in this box. So I can go back and see what I did. If I click on advanced, then I see this is everything I copied in. And if I look at the details, because this is telling me, oh, there's some problems here. If I look at the details, I could copy and paste this again, but it's saying, hey, this is not a mesh heading. This is not a mesh heading. And this is not a mesh heading. So something's not totally perfect with your search. And again, it tells you this down here. So I want to find out, I bet there is a mesh heading for type 1 diabetes mellitus. I want to go into the mesh database. This is connected to PubMed, but it is separate. So I'm going to open it in a new tab. And I'm going to ask it, so type 1 diabetes mellitus, tell me what the mesh heading is. And it's actually diabetes mellitus, type 1. So I should go back and change my search. So it is type 1 diabetes mellitus, type 1, as opposed to type 1 diabetes mellitus. I will need to do that for type 2 diabetes mellitus. I think in this case, when I added this and looked for this in the mesh database, which I will now click on, it linked to postpartum period. So I already have that in my search. You'll see postpartum period is already a mesh term. So I'd probably just change this to, hey, look for this term in the title and abstract. I don't want to look for this term everywhere because it's going to look in journal titles. It's going to look in people's affiliation. It's going to look in all sorts of things I don't want it to look in and bring in a lot of extra articles that are irrelevant. So that's the benefit of limiting to title abstract. So that's what you do with keywords. You limit them to title abstract, or text word is also another one you can limit to, which is title, abstract, or author supply keyword. So those are ways. And then, but using the mesh heading also means that it's a very specific search. So I know that that article is about type 2 diabetes mellitus. It doesn't just mention it. And if I were to find an article I really liked, this is where, you know, when you said you found an article in the AI tool, you can look at that article in PubMed and see what mesh terms they used, because Gemini may not be getting all the mesh terms that I want. So I want to see, are there other mesh terms in here that Gemini didn't put in my search that I do want to add to one of my concepts? So I always look at mesh terms. Another place for keywords is right in the abstract. If there is a unique word in here that describes one of your concepts, that's where I also get keywords, because someone mentioned they didn't know where to find keywords. For non-English speakers, I have a colleague who's non-English speaker. She uses AI for all her synonym gathering. It's really helpful, but you can also just look at abstracts to help you find those. as well as the mesh terms themselves. You can search the mesh terms, but you can OR them with that same term, but only searched in the title and abstract in case they weren't indexed well. Does that make sense? Does anyone have questions? Okay, I would like for you to have a little time to try this also. So I'm going to suggest, let's see, let me go back to this. You identify the concepts in your question and only search 2 or 3, only identify 2 or 3 concepts. Then brainstorm keywords and mesh terms to describe 1 or more concepts, or you can start with the Gemini search, that the PubMed search that was created. Maybe only search 2 of those concepts though. And check, did Gemini make any mistakes? Do you need to change your search somewhat? Then create a search string to combine the keywords and mesh terms, and then try that search string in PubMed. If you're really comfortable with that, or if you have some time, go into Google Scholar, but don't use and don't use lots of keywords, just use the major concepts. So I will show you really quickly what I did in Google Scholar. Pardon, my mouse is tricky. So then I just used the major concepts and used limiters over here. Oh, also I want to show you the limiters. If you aren't aware of them, here are the article type limiters in PubMed. This is what is defaulted, but there are a lot of other article type limiters that you can apply if you're interested in preprints, and it filtered down. It didn't have any preprints in this search. You can also limit by age groups. PubMed's limits to age groups are really, really helpful and pretty precise. So that might be also another way if you're getting too many. So let me stop talking and give you a chance to try this out also. I'm going to cut the time a little bit short on the timer because I think I started it too late. Does anyone have any feedback? What worked, what didn't work?
So when I did my search, it was pretty general, and I took that and put it into PubMed and basically had to go through and like parse because it said like so many different ors. I had to parse through. I'm like, okay, if I have this or, because sometimes it would have something like completely irrelevant to what I was looking for because my terms were so general. So it's a little bit of the issue of you know, what are you typing in and giving Google Gemini, and then again using human knowledge and critical thinking to, okay, well, what can I actually parse out of those different things?
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. And that might, copy and paste into a Word document, get rid of the ones you don't want, and then copy it and paste it into PubMed before I even go to PubMed. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
I thought this worked really well in terms of working with AI to create the search string. I could also like ask it to simplify or be more specific too. So like, yes, I can go through and manually do it, but I found that it was also pretty helpful if I just specified I want this to be pretty simple and broad, then it actually did a pretty good job of keeping it that way, and then ended up with like 1,500 articles for something, which is maybe a little bit too much. And then just I think I selected like free full text or something like that on PubMed to narrow it down, and that took it down to like 700 instead. So yeah.
Good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So if you are not affiliated with an institution, free full text is a good way to narrow down. But if you are affiliated with an institution, it is likely you can get all those articles. And so you don't want to limit yourself because you'll limit yourself from all the subscriptions your institution is paying for, or they can get it through interlibrary loan for you. So I always tell everybody at IU, never use that limit, but it is there for people that are not affiliated. So that's one thing. If you're getting too many articles, like 1,500, that's where I go to article type, and I'll go to high levels like meta-analysis or systematic review or randomized controlled trials. That's also when I add another concept. I need to get more specific. So I'm glad it was helpful for you. And I'm glad you brought up that full text, because we pretty much say, unless you are affiliated with no one, never use these, because you're limiting yourself from great stuff that people are paying for you on your behalf. Okay, I'm going to move on because I have like 3 minutes. And I have a lot to cover in that 3 minutes. So who uses a citation manager? Does anyone use Zotero right now? And if you do, if you could raise your hand, maybe I can see that. Does anyone use this? How about EndNote? Okay, excellent. So what do you use, Jen?
I use Zotero primarily, but I have used EndNote depending on the comfort level of some of my collaborators. Some of them preferred EndNote, and so I switched to EndNote for a couple of papers.
And why do you use it? How is it valuable? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. My primary go-to is Zotero, and I use it for a number of things to kind of manage my references for each project that I'm working on. And I can organize them kind of within folders and subfolders. If I'm working on a group project and everyone is comfortable using Zotero, then I'll make a group that we can collaborate with. I also use it to keep track of my own papers and what I've contributed to over the past few years.
Excellent. So I try to get other people to talk about how great it is, because citation managers are great. And the reason I bring up Zotero is because it's free. But other people use, I put EndNote, IU uses that, but it's not free, although you can use it for a month for free. And Mendeley is another one that people use. It saves a lot of time and effort. It allows you to automate your citation creation and your bibliography creation. It'll change it based on the journal that you have, based on the citation style that's required. It's automatic. You can store full text in it. You can keep notes. You can organize citations into folders and subfolders. If you're not using a citation manager, you need to use it immediately. It doesn't matter which one. And like Jen said, you can share folders with collaborators, and they don't, as long as they're comfortable, they don't have to have the subscription, I don't believe, yeah, Zotero's free. So the Zotero is free, EndNote, Mendeley, they operate similarly. They're not perfectly the same, but if you know one, it's easy to learn. The other one, I just learned Zotero. I taught myself just in the last few months, and I already knew EndNote, and it wasn't hard. I'm providing some links to help for you, so that the folks that mentioned not being able to organize, that's a great start if you're not using a citation management. A lot of the questions that I heard that I don't have time to get to, a librarian can help you with. So if you are affiliated with an institution, reach out to your librarian. I kept thinking, oh, if I had 20 minutes, I could help them with this. I could help them with that. Rigor, critical appraisal tools, what to look for new papers, Google Scholar, multiple databases, preprint articles. You can create AI tools that are closed that you can upload papers to that then they can help you analyze if you're dealing with overwhelm of 100 papers. There are tools within every article database that you can create a free account and set it up so it will email you when that search is run and a new paper comes up under it. So my key takeaways: use AI tools, save prompts for each tool so you can run them again, save searches in PubMed and Google Scholar, set up recurring searches, have them email you, use citation managers, work with your librarian. If you could evaluate this, I would appreciate that. You can just put ISACB when it says what type of class did you take. Just say other and then type ISACB. It won't matter. I'll just look at the date. That will help me improve. And you can follow up with me also. So that's my name, our contact information. But please feel free to follow up with me, and I'll ask Jen. There are a few things I could send to people that ask questions at the beginning. And if I have a handout, I will send it. So
Yeah, we'll make sure to get all the materials to everybody that attended. And then once the recording goes on the website, we'll try to include those on the website too.
Excellent. Great.
Julia, someone's asking to put the link in the chat to the review or the class review as well, just because I think the QR was too fast.
Okay, yeah. Let me get that up really quickly. There we go. And also, a PhD student I worked with on a review a few years ago, who's since published, she looked at a lot of books that we had access to, and she really liked this one, so I thought I would share that one with you. It's about doing the whole review. She really found it helpful. She'd never done one before. And did I put the Zotero help in?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. Basically, that's what I used when I did my Zotero teaching. I watched this video, I used this LibGuide, and then Zotero itself has some great help to get you started. Okay, I'll stop talking. I'm happy to stay after if people have questions, but I understand it's 3 minutes after.
Yeah, just for the interest of time, I think I will kind of do the wrap up. First off, thank you so much, Julia, for helping us or guiding this workshop. I think it was extremely useful. I definitely will be using some of these tools myself for my own literature searches and literature reviews in the future. I'm also really excited to kind of see how AI is incorporating into how we look at the literature now, because as those tools are evolving, it kind of makes sense for us to try to figure out how to use those tools, and also again bring in like that human interaction to make sure we're doing well. I also just like to thank everyone for coming to our talk from ISACB. So Jen and I, on behalf of the Young Investigators Committee, we were super excited to start getting some more interactive webinars. And if you guys thought this was really exciting, again, we will also be happy to share our contact information and Julia's contact information if you'd like to kind of get an idea or, reach out for more tips. And then also, I'm sure there's also librarians at your own universities that might give you additional advice because, I don't know about all of you, but libraries are super useful. So thank you again. And we're just super happy to have all of you. And thanks again for the participation from the audience.